Happy Tuesday and welcome back, Heat Seekers. It is the Dynasty Heat Seeker Show, and it's getting to that point of the year where either your trade deadlines have come and gone or your team is in disarray and you're already beginning to think about what does next year look like. Well, we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to talk top 10s again. We've done some already, and this time we're going to touch on the quarterbacks. So if you need to try to aim to get a quarterback in the 2022 season, we'll give you our top 10s, and we'll have some fun conversations about it. As always, if you enjoy the content, smash that like button and comment below. We will answer your questions live on air. We do it live, as they would say on the Four Letter Network. And with that being said, Mr. Sullivan, how are you, my friend?
$1 million. Feel like $1 million. I'm pumped. I'm over whatever little ailment I had last week. And Tony, thanks for being here. I'm ready to talk some QBs and have some fun. Anthony, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Also excited to talk about some quarterbacks. I know I told you guys before the show I've had kind of a rough day with my Madden team, but yeah, I'm pulling through. I'm good. I'm feeling good.
That's a tough break. That's a tough break, but a true pro will rise up. You'll be fine.
I know.
You will take the Texans to glory. That's all I will say. Just make it happen.
Gentlemen, before we get QB in here, Christian McCaffrey.
Wah, wah, wah.
Too soon, Sully.
You mean Chuba Hubbard season?
What are we doing with Christian McCaffrey if we have him on our roster?
The funny thing is I just saw him traded straight up for Derrick Henry in the league. Like it was like two teams traded those for each other. I was like, and my response in the group chat for our league was, are they both toast? Did you just trade non-important running backs?
That's a weird trade.
I know.
I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey than Derrick Henry.
Believe it or not, I might actually want Derrick Henry.
So that's an interesting conversation. I just think that Christian McCaffrey will be relevant longer. I know he's obviously hasn't been on the field, but if he's able to come through that, he's more of a possession PPR type back. I think that he has more longevity in that sense.
2 weeks ago, I was trying to stay afloat in the 96 V1 league. I was first in my division. My team was slowly falling apart. Roster Alvin Kamara. So I traded Alvin Kamara and what I felt was going to be a very late first-round pick for McCaffrey. And I thought he did okay. Now I kind of want to reverse that trade, but I don't think
that's
I
too
can.
bad.
So.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ray's going to join us. Remember last week he was trying to get me to trade for McCaffrey off his team, and I never pulled the trigger. And I circled back to him now, say, hey, you want to trade McCaffrey now? And he goes, no, not the time. And I think that's a good move. I mean, you don't want to trade him right now, So sorry, Brad, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so what's the offer you get that you move him right, like in the off season? I'm assuming trade deadlines have passed. Is somebody offer you a young player that maybe is on like a Michael Carter and some picks or they offer you a young wide receiver and a pick? Like, what are you getting offered where you're like, I'll take that. I mean, CMC is probably close to the end in the beginning, maybe from his prime. Who knows? The injuries, the 400 touches thing, like, what's that look like?
I probably wouldn't give up enough to really honestly acquire him. I mean, I would imagine, Ray, for example, would want like Michael Pittman in a first or something. And I wouldn't pay that. There's too much risk. I'm competing right now as it is with Pittman. So I don't think I would do that for Christian McCaffrey at this point.
I would want something like Javonte Williams in a first, and I know I'm not going to get it.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not going to get that, might as well just keep him and see what maybe he can play 4 games next year, So let's see. But what I was going to say is, where's he going in a dynasty startup, 1 QB dynasty startup? Is he like, where's he go? Where's he get drafted?
He probably still gets drafted high, I would think, because people are going to hope that he bounces back to what he was pre-injury.
I think he would go second round. Like, I think what you would see is all the elite young running backs go first, kind of like we saw this last season. Then you're going to see the elite wide receivers go, and then that's when Christian McCaffrey would slide in.
I think he might still go at the end of the first, but I think you're right. I think you see Swift. I think you see JT. I think you see, Cam Akers could go ahead of him. Dobbins could go ahead of him. I think a lot of those guys could go ahead of him. And then there's Dalvin who's falling off, and Henry's probably going to slide a little bit farther back. Saquon.
Who would you take today, Zeke or Christian McCaffrey?
CMC in a heartbeat. To be totally honest,
as of today, now, if you have Christian McCaffrey and you're competing,
I have Christian McCaffrey in.
Would you consider trading him straight
now? Right now. Who's in my league that's watching right now? Let's do it. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Only because I'm trying to win that frickin' thing and stay afloat.
Right.
And my team is a house of cards. It's about 80 years old on average, and I haven't had a pick in 3 years. So,
but if you're looking at 2022 startup, you would want Christian McCaffrey before Zeke. I think
Zeke's about to fall off a cliff too, though. So
yeah, okay.
Well, so that leads you to the next point. When is
CMC? A hell of a quarterback show, hey?
Well, we got plenty of time.
I'm not worried.
So when do we pull the Derrick Henry card, Sully? When do we sell CMC? Because you've already been on the sell Derrick Henry. When is it CMC's time?
It's pretty easy to say this now, and hindsight's 2020. But I think we missed the sell CMC window, right? Like I just said, I would like to get a guy like Javonte Williams in a first for him. I'm not getting that, but halfway through this season, I would have easily got that. I would have got that and more, right? So I don't know.
Last week when Ray was making that push, it was good on Ray. That was the time to try to push him off. And unfortunately for him, injury just struck at the wrong time.
Okay.
Yeah. The funny part was, well, not funny, but he rolled his ankle. He's going to be fine. They're going into the bye. He might not miss any time to poof. He's on IR.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened?
And I think a lot of that's just because the Panthers are, I guess they figure, they're not competing anyway.
Yeah. And apparently if you go on IR more than once, you're out for the year. Learned that too.
Yeah, the IR rules are a bit quirky, but eventually you get to the point where you're just donezo and it's just not happening again. I guess that leads us into questioning other big names, like Dalvin, like Saquon. Saquon's back playing, against the Eagles, which are kind of a middle of the road team, 13 for 40, 4 for 13. It was the second game back. You were thinking maybe we're finally going to see some prime Saquon where he just dominates, and kind of fizzled more than popped. Do we start worrying about these the changing of the guard? It was Saquon, ZMZ, Henry, Cook. These were kind of the big names at the high end of the drafts. Now we're starting to see it's the JTs and the Swifts and maybe some of these other younger running backs. What do we do with these other guys?
Well, I have Cook in a dynasty league, but I also have Madison. So I never felt inclined to have to get off that because I figured, well, if Cook gets hurt, I still have Madison anyway. If you have Zeke in a league and Pollard, I think you could kind of feel the same way. Like, hey, you know what? Worst case scenario, I'm still good. But there are other situations with running backs in this league. For example, let's go with who was the one? JT, Jonathan Taylor. If Jonathan Taylor went down, Hines isn't really a direct, replacement. It's going to be, I think, way more of a committee type situation. Same with the Saints. Ingram is a good fill-in, but for how long? Maybe just this season, not next season. So there are a lot of different dynamics that I think you have to kind of factor into when you make some of these decisions.
Sully?
I've been worried about Dalvin Cook all year, and so I have one roster where I'm also all in and doing well. That rosters Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook, and now it's rolling out Elijah Mitchell, which is a pleasant surprise. And I don't know, Devonta Freeman maybe this week. I don't know what it looks like, but I've been worried about Dalvin and thinking that it's probably the time to sell him. And I have him in multiple leagues, but my challenge is that I'm competing in all of those leagues. So
do you have Madison?
No.
Okay.
Not really a big handcuffing guy anyway. So
yeah, I get that.
Like I can understand that. I wish I did now. But for the vast majority of the season, I would just, in my opinion, I'd be burning a roster spot. But
yeah, I get that. I
get the argument for it as well, because trust me, there's a lot of guys on those rosters that are never going to see my lineup anyway. So might as well if you can. But so yeah, I think you should get out of Dalvin. So if you're in a league right now and you roster him and it's your trade deadline this week and you're not competing, get out. Like sell him now.
Well,
And that's one thing I wanted to bring up real quick too, Brad. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
I'm in a couple of leagues where, because of the extra, this is a little off topic, but because of the extra week in the NFL season, everyone pushed their playoffs back 1 week. Both of my leagues that I commish, I didn't move the trade deadline. It was an error. It was an oversight. Like, I didn't even consider having to actually go in and move the trade deadline with that extra season. So if anyone out there listening, maybe go check your league settings. Make sure when your trade deadline is. Yeah.
I think that's probably happening in more leagues than not, right?
They'll learn from it. It'll change next year. You have time, I mean, and it brings to an issue I'm running into. So a league where I'm competing, I'm tied for, I think, third, and we don't do divisions. It's just one 14-team league where everybody's in one division, and I'm tied for third. Good. And I have my running backs, Saquon, James Conner. I picked up Deonta Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard on a waiver wire just to button hook everybody else, basically. Leonard Fournette, Darrell Henderson, and then I have Marlon Mack and Keyshawn Vaughn. It's just sitting on the roster at the moment. Then a wide receiver, Debo, Sterling Shepard, Adam Thielen, Patrick, Jacoby Myers, Deontay Johnson, Russell Gage. So Debo is now hurt. I'm primed pushing for playoff positioning. I faced the first place team, not this week, but next week. This week I got a bit of a lighter game, a guy who's trying to rebuild, so we started selling stuff off. Do I try to trade Saquon to make sure that my wide receiver situation is good? Because basically what my starting lineup is going to be, you can start a lot more running backs than in most leagues. So I'm going to start 3 running backs and just 2 receivers. But do I trade a guy like Saquon, who's still got the name value, who's healthy right now, but maybe not the sexiest producer, to try to make sure I have wide receiver help because of Debo? Or do I just sit and just kind of go with what I got,
I mean, I would probably try to trade like one of the third, fourth running backs and try to get like a usable asset this season at wide receiver that isn't necessarily like more of a long-term type play. You know what I mean? So I don't think I would move like a big heavy hitter. Now, you can move a big heavy hitter if you get, a couple of studs back at the wide receiver position. If you can throw an offer out there and get a good return, then that's different. But
one of the guys that is trying to rebuild has been trying to sell pieces. He's got Tyreek. And I keep thinking about but who wants to trade a wide receiver for a running back that if you're in the middle of trying to rebuild? I'm like, well, Saquon's 24. Maybe I could try to find a way to flip Saquon for Tyreek in some sort of situation. But Tyreek's 27. So I know Anthony's going to say, well, he's about a year from being done at this point. He's going to be retiring here before too long. Oh, you get 2 years. Well, I get to 29 with him. Well, there you go.
Brad, what's your record in that league?
8-4. I think I'm 8-4.
Okay. And are you in the playoffs?
Basically.
He's third.
Yeah, I'm third place. So I'll be in the playoffs.
So if you beat the first place team, you play him this week?
Next week. This week I've got a bit of a cakewalk. It's a rebuilding team.
So let's not jinx you, but assume you win this week and then you play the first place team next week. Can you catch the first place team?
So he's only 2 games. He's 2 games ahead of me, and I'm can't.
So the way I look at it is, who cares if you lose to him?
Yeah, the concern is not getting like a round 1 bye in week 15 and then having to roll out Deebo Samuel, who's active, but you don't ever see him play for 2 weeks. I mean, that's the concern I have in a number of leagues. It's like, I got to start Deebo. Yeah. He's healthy, but you don't know if you're going to get a D-Hop type.
I think the good thing with the Niners is they're a playoff team, and they're going to be a playoff team because I don't see how they fall out of the NFC 6th or 7th seed with the garbage that's behind them. So if Deebo's active and he's playing, that's a good sign to me that the Niners are comfortable with him health-wise to put him on the field. If he was playing for the Jets or the Panthers or somebody that doesn't really give a crap, I'd be a little bit more concerned, right? But I don't think the Niners are rolling Deebo out there, who is, let's face it, the vast majority of their offense this season, if there's any risk of injuring him any further. So
Brad, can you run through your running backs again real quick?
I'm about saying it doesn't upset me rolling out Thielen and Deontay as my 2 starting wide receivers. I mean, that's
who are your running backs though? Who are your running backs?
I got Saquon, James Conner. I've got both the Tennessee guys, Hilliard and Foreman, Leonard Fournette, Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, see, what you can try to do right now is try to trade Fournette or Conner. I mean, that's what I would do, especially after coming off 2 big games. I think that makes more sense than really trading Barkley, in my opinion, at this point.
I'd keep your roster as it is.
Huh?
I'd keep your roster as it is, and I think your depth will serve you well. As we've seen so far this season, anything can happen in any given week. So you could end up trading Connor or Fournette, and Saquon could step on somebody's freaking foot again, and you lose them for another month. So
yeah,
right. Well,
the more viable options you have.
I'm about to say, this is the league I coined that you trade yourself into good decisions. This
is
the league that this phrase came from, because going into the season, I was still in the middle of rebuilding. Then all of a sudden, a few trades fell in my lap, so I just made some more trades, and then I'm a playoff team.
Just gonna put that on a T-shirt somewhere, hey?
They should copyright that business. We'd be rich, because it's everywhere now, I'm sure.
I think trading makes fantasy fun.
Yeah, Scott Fish said that.
I've heard that.
All right, so now that we're 20 minutes in and we're just kind of driven down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk quarterbacks. So we always look at this a little differently each week. I've noticed the way that we've all approached it, but with the quarterbacks, we're not that much different, which is surprising. Although, as I looked at the top 10s and as I was kind of trying to build my list, I'm like, man, quarterbacks suck in fantasy. Like, I'm just not super excited about most of these quarterbacks outside of the top.
Why?
I don't know. Well, because in my mind, I can build the storyline that most of these guys outside of the top 5 or 6 are just could be QB2s at best.
They're all the same. They're all the same stat line.
I mean, they're just not.
I
anything super appealing.
100% comfortable starting any one of my 10 on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but I'm also comfortable starting any one of my.
I hope
top
I play you in a league where you're going to start one of your 10 that doesn't play football right now.
I mean,
I wouldn't say. Well, that's a good point, but
you look at the bottom of our list, right?
Yeah,
and I will dive into a little bit more. But I mean, I'm comfortable starting Kirk Cousins along with any of these guys this week. You know what I mean?
I'm not. And trust me, nobody knows Kirk Cousins more than I do. And Kirk Cousins has put up some excellent numbers this season, and he's been a top 10-ish quarterback all season. But I don't want to start him over any of the guys that I have on my list. Kirk Cousins is the ultimate perfect QB2 in a super flex league, in my opinion. That's where he maxes out.
All right, so Mr. Sullivan, let's talk about your top 10. Let's get going with this. Who are we talking about?
Well, my top 10 is Patrick Mahomes at 1, which we all share. Anybody consider not having him at 1? Because I did for a bit.
No.
Okay. Josh Allen is
who
my
did you
2.
consider putting in front of him?
Allen.
Josh Allen?
Yeah. So Josh Allen would be my 1A or QB2. I then follow it with Kyler, Lamar, Dak, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, and Desean Watson. That's my top 10.
Okay. The only one that
Brad's making a face.
Yeah, probably at the same guy I'm thinking about. Brad,
sure.
Why don't you?
Well, I think I'm kind of making a face just because, we talked a little pre-show about it. I don't know what to do with Deshaun. I mean, yes, the guy that you're making a face about. I mean, yeah, I get it, but the Deshaun stuff, I don't know what to do with him. If I'm doing a startup draft right now, I can't in good faith draft him hoping that he plays next year because I don't know what to make of it. What happens if things don't go his way? Trouble in courts. The NFL says, "No, we're not going to deal with that. We're just going to put you on the exempt list, and then you get another year off." You're 2 years from what if he comes back and plays in his elite? I mean, either way, right?
It's totally personal preference. I think if anything, at 10 he's too low, but I can't put him any higher.
Yeah, if he plays, he's top 5. I mean, probably even in the conversation for number 1 overall because Patrick's shown some this year too.
I'd say top 3 locked for sure.
I like him better than Josh Allen. I like him better than Kyler. I definitely like him better than Lamar and Dak. I mean, just looking at Sully's top 10 per se. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, but Mahomes has shown that there's some kinks in those armor too, right? Like Deshaun, he was producing with just a dumpster fire of a team.
He threw for 5,000 yards, I think, like with that Texans team that is god awful. So there's something to be said for that. Plus his ability to extend plays with his legs, and he's a total package. It's just he's a bit of a dirtbag and not playing football right now. So yeah. So Anthony, the guy you're concerned with, is Jalen Hurts?
Yeah. Okay. There is no chance, I would consider taking him top 10. Probably, I'm not even sure I'd consider him top 15. He was nowhere near my consideration. I take Trey Lance over him. I take Justin Fields over him, someone with more upside.
Why?
Because I think that the team is committed to him. And I don't think that the team is committed to Jalen Hurts whatsoever. And so, I just don't know in 3 years from now if Jalen Hurts will even be a starting quarterback, whereas I have faith that all these other guys we're talking about will be a starting quarterback within the next 3 years.
Are we sure Trey Lance is?
I believe so.
You had to start adding details.
I was super high on Trey Lance, and everything that I've seen of him, and albeit it's a very, very small sample size, that dude doesn't look good at all.
No, he's just not ready. But
I mean, he's Jordan. He's very Jordan Love-esque. He's going to need time to maximize his potential.
Well, Jordan Love isn't in my top 10 either.
No,
Jalen Hurts is not a very good quarterback, but he's an awesome fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the issue I have is,
top 5 right now. He's actually ahead.
I get
Mahomes.
I get how good he is fantasy wise, but generally speaking, that doesn't mean longevity in the NFL.
Not always.
If you're not winning games, I mean, you can go to
Matthew Stafford.
You could go to phillyflock.com and just see everyone on there saying, "Hey, look, we don't want this guy as our quarterback." I mean,
yeah, but then go there. But then go to that same website the week after they win a game, and they'll be all, "This guy's amazing. He's listed."
Look at what
Philadelphia has the worst fan base on the planet, regardless of sport. They're all dicks. They are the most ruthless, evil. Ask anybody who's ever played in Philadelphia. That fan base is horrific.
So for the fan base to go to do not represent that of the rotoheat.com brand.
Oh, whatever. Fire me. I'll go work for some Philadelphia radio station.
Actually, I've never been to Philadelphia.
Jalen Hurts is QB2 in a lot of scoring leagues right now. He's going to be the Eagles quarterback next year at minimum, and maybe after that. And if he's not the Eagles quarterback, he's somebody's quarterback, at least for a couple more years, in my opinion. And I do my rankings based on a 3-year window. So I think he's in my top 10. Again, he's a guy at 8 who I think might be a little low.
Well, and that's my struggle. So when you put the 3-year window on it, how do we not have, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, these guys that are top 10 quarterbacks currently?
I really struggled with not having Tom Brady in here, to be honest. And I know he's 65 years old, but 2 years ago, if I told you Tom Brady would be a good fantasy quarterback, you would have thought I was an idiot. Do we really think it's impossible that 2 years from now he's still not playing? That he's still playing, throwing for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns? Is it that far-fetched?
With as much as he doesn't hit the ground, maybe. I mean, unless he takes a nasty injury, then he's done. I don't see him.
He plays till he doesn't want to anymore, doesn't he?
Probably.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's hard
I'm
to
not
trust
going to bet
that.
against
I'd rather
him.
let somebody else fall on that grenade.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet against him, but
I wouldn't put him above any of the guys I have here, but he's pretty close.
Yeah, but that was my struggle.
Yeah,
was thinking Aaron Rodgers and Stafford specifically. I kept putting their name on there and taking them off. So I'm
I don't think Stafford's a top 10 or 12 quarterback now.
Well, right now he's top 6.
But I don't believe it. I know he is, and I think it's.
I'm not saying he is or isn't.
No, I think the way Anthony feels about Hurts is how I feel about Stafford. They're there. They've done it, but I'm not so sure they are. Stafford has been poopy lately.
Well, whatever quarterback's in McVay's system.
I think he's dealing with an injury. I think he's probably dealing with an injury. He's been elite. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say elite. He's been above average. He's been above average for 10 years. Excuse me. So who's going to be? Who's going to be a quarterback in the next 5 years? Is Stafford or Hurts? I mean, everyone would say Stafford, right?
Well, and I think we got to start having the conversation about whatever quarterback starts in McVay's offense is fantasy relevant, top 10 fantasy relevant, because Goff was producing at a high level until the very end, right?
But for a certain while, right? It's almost like they have a shelf life.
McVay seems to be a bit hard to deal with. It seems like because he gets pretty dissatisfied quickly.
He calls some weird ass plays like running on 3rd and 10 down 18 points or something in the anyway.
That last couple quarters in Green Bay was like, what are you
Awful.
doing?
Awful.
But he had hurt wide receiver and OBJ. He kept pulling up in his back, and he kept pulling up with the back injury. And then Stafford, we've been hearing that there's hands and back stuff. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I'm also the only one with Russell Wilson. I noticed. You guys figure that's over or what?
No, I considered him. He was on the bubble for me as well. It's just this. I don't know if it's injury. I mean, I guess this year it's injury related, but there's a lot of uncertainty on where he's going to be next year. It's probably not going to be Seattle.
That's good, isn't it?
He's getting a little bit up there. I'm like ageist. I'm like the most ageist person.
Yeah, you can't be ageist about quarterbacks when we just talked about a
position,
70-year-old quarterback still throwing as a top 10 passer.
I'm
like Brady, Rodgers, Stafford.
All of them are off my list. All of them are off my list.
They're all in their
That's
30s.
it. They're going to the top of mine.
Right?
All right, I'm going all old people. What's the oldest quarterbacks in the room?
Anthony, give us your top 10.
All right, my top 10. I will say we share our top 7, not in the exact same order,
just different order, but the same quarterback,
but same guys.
All three of us. All three of us.
All three of us. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in no particular order, but I'll go with mine. That is Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, all the way down there. You can kind of see him. He's a little small. Joe Burrow. And then the last 3 is where we kind of get a little sideways with everyone else. But I also have Desean Watson, like Sully. My last 2 are Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence. Mac Daddy. So I guess we've already touched on Desean. There's just so much upside. And obviously there's a huge a sinking floor beneath him, but we'll see what happens there. Mac Jones, I think Mac Jones has played really well. And he hasn't been elite this year. He hasn't been like as hot as like Justin Herbert was in his rookie season. But also we have to remember, like, this is his rookie year. Like, he's probably going to get better. And he's already showing competence in his rookie season. And keep in mind, it's not like they have like an elite wide receiver to throw the ball to. He's doing it with Kendrick Bourne,
elite.
Aguilar,
elite.
Hunter Henry.
Elite.
So I just think that the sky's the limit for Mac Jones.
I really, really like Mac Jones, and he was darn near on my list. But there's 2 things that hurt him a little bit in my mind. And I think the point of him being a rookie is spot on. But I think he doesn't really run the football, and I think that really hurts you in fantasy from a value standpoint as a quarterback. And this year, he has done absolutely everything except throw the touchdown pass. And I think in that offense, as long as that regime is there, that will hold true. And I think that unless he's scoring from 30 yards out, they're running the ball into the end zone. So I love him. I think he's fantastic. I want him on every one of my teams. But I don't know if he's a top 10 quarterback because he's not running and he's not throwing touchdown passes. But his completion percentage is lights out. He doesn't turn the ball over. He makes smart plays. He's a hell of a real-life football quarterback, like really good real-life guy. Maybe the best in this draft, but I just don't know about fantasy.
Yeah, and that's a good segue because, again, my last quarterback is Trevor Lawrence, who was perceived by, I think, generally everyone to be the best quarterback in this draft class. I think there's, again, like with Desean Watson, there's just so much upside for someone that has shown elite talent, granted, not at the NFL level yet, but just raw elite talent that I think he could also take the next step. I originally didn't have Trevor Lawrence on my top 10 list, but what I really circled back to was Peyton Manning's rookie season, where he threw more interceptions than touchdowns, and it was just a bad team. The Colts were just a bad team, and Jacksonville's the same way. like, it's just a bad team. They don't even really have a head coach, and so I expect
draft first overall, right? And
that's why I expect Trevor Lawrence to get better. And I I think there's enough upside to justify him being right at the borderline top 10. And I felt like he's earned it. He's earned that leeway this far into his season.
He's earned nothing. You know, the struggle I have is that I hate Jacksonville's coaching staff. Like, there's just no value in that staff. And while they're there, I don't think it really does them any benefit for Trevor Lawrence and some of these young guys, LaVisca and some of them in their development, because whatever guy takes over after, because there will be another guy after, will have to fix all the wrongs that's being taught. I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked good throughout the season at all. I mean, he's not turned over the ball. I mean, he's like, what is he, like 8 and 10 or 9 and 10 touchdown to interception. I mean, he's not turned over the ball much. He hasn't thrown a lot of touchdowns. I mean, he's not really been a good game manager. I mean, I'm really not seeing any growth.
You put Mac Jones on Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence in New England, and I legitimately think you have complete reverse results for both these guys. I just don't want to put too much of this negativity in Jacksonville on Trevor Lawrence. I just don't think it's
well, and I didn't. I put it on the coaching staff. The coaching staff is the problem in Jacksonville.
And I don't expect
very talented.
And I don't expect that coaching staff to be here that long.
No, I don't either.
And I don't either. And Trevor Lawrence is 1,000% outlasting whatever management team is there. But he hasn't even looked good at all. And that's my biggest concern. And I don't think you're wrong, Anthony. I think if you flip those quarterbacks' mailing addresses, is that they'd be similar. But, man, look, Trevor Lawrence has not at all looked like anything, Craig, that I thought he would look like. So, but it is tough. It is early. And the Peyton Manning comparison is an interesting one, and it's convenient, and it's a sexy comparison, right? Everybody talks about, well, you know, Peyton Manning threw 30 plus interceptions in his first season, but we failed to forget all the Ryan Leafs and stuff of the world, right? And the Jamarcus Russells and all the other high end drafted quarterbacks that turned out to be trash. Not saying
Trey
that's
Lance
what's happening.
Is the Ryan Leaf, is that what you're saying?
I don't know what Trey Lance is, and Trey Lance was my number 2 quarterback coming in, and I absolutely loved him, and I absolutely despise him now. Like, I just don't think
No, don't lose faith.
We have to see. We got to see the guy play football.
He's just not ready. He's not ready.
Well, yeah, and it was in hindsight, it was a terrible draft pick, but at the same time, that doesn't make him a terrible quarterback.
No, I wouldn't even go that far.
Well,
I don't
but
think
nobody should have drafted him expecting him to be lights out right now.
It's too soon to say. It's
don't
really
trade
too soon
up
to say.
what you traded up for a guy who's not ready. That's nuts.
Well, they should have traded up to get Mac Jones then. Like, he looks to be the only quarterback that looked ready to play. The rest of these guys have not looked. They've looked overmatched. I mean, Trevor Lawrence at times looks like he's got his head on his, like, he just doesn't. He seems confused at times. I mean, the same thing's gone with Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. Mac Jones has been the only one that looked like he was ready to step up and do it. I mean, and Bill Belichick's system is not easy. So for him to come in and nail it like he's been doing it, like that's between the ears. And that's why you can't compare Trevor Lawrence or some of these other quarterbacks to some of those other greats. I mean, Peyton Manning came in very intelligent. Yeah, he made a bunch of bad decisions. The team wasn't great either, though. I mean, he had some good receivers, Marvin Harrison, basically, you know, and
and
it's a different world.
That was my point earlier too, is that usually the team that drafts first overall and takes a quarterback is a bad football team. That's why they have the first overall pick in the first place. The only team that I can think of that was Indianapolis, that Peyton sat out for a full season, and then Andrew Luck slid in there and took over basically a first place team and did well. So, but yeah, I think the rookie guys are really tough. You know, Lance is hard to get a read on, obviously, because he hasn't been on the field. Justin Fields, same thing. Zach Wilson looks lost, and hopefully he could bounce back from that. You know, you go back to the preseason shows that we did, and I was like dancing on the ceiling for this quarterback class. I was super excited. And then the bright lights came on, and it was like all of them forgot how to play football except for Mac Jones.
When I do my own personal rankings, I'm not one to like to bounce guys around a lot. Like, I like to try to keep them. Do you do other people's
personal rankings or just your own personal rankings?
No, mine. I don't like to bounce guys around a lot. You know, sometimes you see guys rank guys and it's like, oh, this, you know, Jalen Hurts is top 7. And then, we could look 6 months from now and you'll have him like 25. Now, I'm not saying you personally, but just someone in general. Like, I try to keep them pretty close, pretty tight. There's some leeway, obviously.
I think
there's some leeway, obviously, but I try to have a more long-term view of the player pool. Also, I want to just comment here. Craig, I don't know why he's meowing, but the cat call worked, because right afterwards, Smokey the Cat came in and asked a question. Smokey the Cat, we will get to your question after we finish our quarterback segment, so hold tight for that.
Bradley, give us your top 10, and then we can be done talking about QBs.
All right, so sit back, buckle up, prepare yourself for this thrill ride through much of the same. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar, Dak to the future, Joey Burrow, who probably should have been number 1 overall, number 1 in our hearts, destroying Pittsburgh this week with them Cincinnati Bengals. Who day? Justin Herbert, who was my top quarterback last year. I do remember going on record saying I love Justin Herbert. Just wish he was wearing Honolulu blue, not that powder blue business. Mac Jones.
I like the powder blue.
I do. Well, it's a beautiful color, but not the right color.
It's the greatest jersey in the league, in my opinion.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The Honolulu blue, it is. I know. The Lions jerseys are beautiful.
Oh my God.
The only one that y'all don't have, which would probably make most people go, "What are you thinking?" is Justin Fields.
What are you thinking?
I know. What are you thinking?
What are you thinking?
What I'm thinking is that I really was, when I prepared preseason, I kind of just overlooked it as he was a scheme quarterback at Ohio State. He was able to do what all the other Ohio State quarterbacks could do. And then when I watched him when we got to the league, a lot of it is Nagy and that scheme, which all that's going to change. But I just liked what I saw from him. He seemed to have good command of the offense. He seemed to make he seemed to be able to be making his reads, which is what I was nervous about, is that he wasn't going to be able to make the proper reads coming in the league. And I don't blame him for that crappy offense. So I'm interested in acquiring him in leagues to see what happens. I could be wrong still. I mean, this quarterback class I've been completely wrong on. I really love Trevor Lawrence going into this. So far, he's looked like he doesn't make reads very well, which is weird because I thought he was fine at Clemson. Mac Jones, I traded preseason in a few Devy leagues I had because I was like, nah, he's not really going to be anything. I mean, Patriots without Tom Brady, I mean, it's over soon. Well, I was wrong, and Mac Jones has been the best of the class so far. And then rounding it out at number 10 is Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this list, that, like I was talking probably pre-show, the top, 10-ish guys, or more like the 5 to 7 guys, are they're kind of set in stone. Like, these are all just the best quarterbacks in fantasy right now. And I struggle with what's after that, because in a 3-year window, I don't see much difference. I mean, the quarterback class in 2022, there's not top 10 talent in it. 2023, maybe. But, I mean, that's still, 2 years out. So, I don't know. It's such a weird situation. I'm looking at this and like, man, it's kind of like the tight end group in fantasy, the top end elite pieces and then everything else.
Yeah, and that's why in leagues, we touched on this last week. This is why in a super flex league, I don't take quarterback first, because the difference between, the first quarterback and the 20th quarterback, let's just pretend that's, Mahomes or
this
Herbert,
season it's 9 points a game,
or Kirk Cousins. I mean, points wise, points are points, like you say, Sully. So if I can still get that same kind of production with a 7th round quarterback, why would I waste a 1st round pick on him? I'd rather shore up my other positions.
Because your positional bias conversation, so the longevity of the position, right? So if you can draft Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Kyler Murray, maybe not the greatest example because he might
Desean
not have
Watson.
longevity of the other ones, but
Andrew
you
Luck.
can draft one of those top. Well, Andrew Luck retired. He was one of the top.
Desean Watson.
Deshaun Watson has some off-field issues. What's the point? I can listen.
I'm just saying, there's a lot. It's not like you can say, well, you have to get these guys to have them be a cornerstone, and then
how many years is Jonathan Taylor going to be an elite running back for?
Probably, I'd say 5 years.
Okay, and how many years is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes going to be an elite quarterback for?
I don't know. Probably longer.
Probably double that, right?
Probably longer. Yeah.
So,
but it's a lot easier to acquire Kirk Cousins.
Jonathan Taylor will be the sideline reporter while Mahomes is still winning Super Bowls, is my point. That's why he's my number 1 pick in a Superflex League.
Yeah, you just don't have to do that. That's all. You can acquire Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins, guys that last long, Aaron Rodgers, these guys that keep playing. You can get them pretty cheap toward the end of their career.
Cheapest acquisition cost of a player that's going to be elite and perform is to draft them. Always.
Not in a startup. No, I disagree with that.
Okay.
So there you go.
Hey, Brad, so if you're drafting a Superflex.
And we're in the same boat, Wilson. Still confused about all these new QBs in the last 2 years.
I think we are. I think we're looking at a massive changing of the guard at the position, right? And we're about to have the same thing at running back. It's just ebbs and flows.
And it's like we talked about pre-show, like a guy like Tua, what do you make of it, Like, is he really – he's been producing the last few weeks, but he's been so up and down and then injuries. And is he really one of those to come,
If I'm not contending and I can go get Tua this week before my deadline, I'm doing it. Because I think he's got some runway left. I think he's got some legitimate fantasy chops.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I wouldn't call Tua
I don't think he is.
And I wouldn't call him one. And if that's what the community thinks, then I think it's a good buy low opportunity.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that talk about people being a bust because they didn't live up to draft capital or whatever the situation might be, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that don't live up to their draft capital. And Tua was coming off a major hip injury. He was splitting time with another quarterback in his offense. He was probably put out there before he should have been put out there. But you can see what he's doing now when he's comfortable with what he's got going on in that offense. And he still plays behind a really bad offensive line. Like, if Miami can shore that stuff up and continue to add pieces around him, he's going to be a viable quarterback for years. I think he's fine. I'm not worried about Tua at all.
Yeah, I like Tua. I mean, I don't love Tua, but I like Tua. I think he's got some potential as long as he can stay on the field. I think that'll be the biggest issue with him. So, but we'll see what happens. I do want to make sure we get to these other two questions. We got a quarterback related question that I definitely want to touch on. Seeing as you brought up Smokey the Cat. Welcome, Smokey the Cat. Glad you're with us. Russell, Tua, or Taysom this week? Taysom, obviously we've heard Taysom has been taking reps with the starters and Trevor's been on the pine. Russell's not been looking good. Tua's looked the best of any of these quarterbacks. Do we just go with Tua this week? What are the Dolphins? They've got the Giants. And Russ has got
problems.
Yeah, he's got
Lots
the 49ers this week, and then the Saints have
Dallas on,
the Cowboys.
Dallas on Thursday.
If Taysom's starting, he's my pick.
100% agree.
But if he's not starting, then I would go with.
He's 100% starting. He's 1,000% starting this week.
Yeah, it's
unless he gets hit by a bus or gets COVID in the next 24 hours, he's 100% they're starting.
I heard they were still seeing how his ankle reacted to practice today.
It's still better than Trevor Siemian.
Taysom would be my pick, assuming he's the starter.
Well, there you go, Smokey. Two people have picked Taysom, and I'm not.
All you got to do is look at what Taysom Hill did as a starting quarterback. And
Brad, who would you pick?
I don't know that I trust Taysom because Taysom
is Russ third for all of us?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm probably leaning Tua, but that's only because when Taysom was starting last, he had much better options. We don't know if Kamara's going to be on the field. No MT. I mean, there's so many things that he doesn't have than the last time he started. Like, is this guy good enough to make?
He didn't have MT when he was starting last year either.
I would probably start
maybe for a couple games. He did.
I don't
probably start.
I got to look it up.
I'd probably start Russell Wilson over Tua this week. I don't have faith in the Niners cornerbacks. I know the stats have looked good these past couple of weeks, but they're not very good. And I think if anyone can take advantage of that is a healthy Russell Wilson. And I would gamble on his finger being better. I would gamble that he could grip the ball this week over Tua.
Washington's defense has not been great, and he didn't take advantage of it.
Nobody gives up more fantasy points for the quarterback this year than Washington.
Yeah, I'd gamble on. I just don't have. With Tua's playing against the Giants. Giants have a pretty good pass defense, don't they?
Meh.
It's kind of
Not
they're
really.
kind of they should be better than they are. They're kind of middle of the road right now, but it's because they have to be on the field a bunch. I mean, the offense keeps making them play more.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they get tired. So I would two guys lean Taysom. I'd probably lean Tua, but that's only because recency bias. Tua has been doing a good job performing well, and this team's pushing for a playoff spot. I mean, they're working hard and bouncing back, and
what I love about Taysom though is like you're basically guaranteed 60 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Like that's like his floor. And I mean, you just can't get that sort of floor with any of these two other guys. And Taysom also has the upside ability of throwing the ball, making plays, being very dynamic. I think Taysom
was QB6 in the games he started last year. 21.57 fantasy points a game, QB6 in the starts that he had last year. So
who was getting most of his action? Who was he targeting?
Probably himself.
Well, I was just wondering if it's guys that are actually on the team.
But that was towards the latter part of the season, and I think MT was shut down going into the playoffs at that point. So it would have been Traquan. It would have been I don't know who.
So much of the same.
Jared Cook?
He's not there.
But he was. Deontay Harris was probably involved. Kamara was involved. Latavius was involved. Like, there was just it was basically a committee offense. But I think where his points come from is they get into the red zone and he runs in for a touchdown. It's kind of like Cam. So I don't think he probably has I don't think he's lighting it up between the 20s, but they get in the red zone and he just uses his big body and barrels into the end zone.
Brad, did we convince you?
No. But that doesn't mean anything. You wouldn't have convinced me. There's nothing you would have said where I'm like, okay, you win. I mean, you're right. He's probably scored more, but I haven't done my rankings yet. Struggling.
I haven't done my rankings yet, but he'll be a top 12 quarterback for me this week. I'm almost positive.
Easily.
What I can say is watch the Roto Heat tiers video, and you'll get the consensus of the Roto Heat team on the quarterback tiers this week.
You're going to weigh him down, though, huh? You're going to put him at like 30.
No, he probably won't be super high, I'm assuming.
All right, Smokey.
Smokey's convinced. So you want Smokey over, and that's all that matters.
Let's go,
matter
baby.
What I say.
Sunday morning, you can join us as well for some last-minute chat.
Yeah, but Anthony won't be on there to try to show him
Anthony
the way.
Might pop in again. You never know.
Yeah, I popped in a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
And yeah,
nice.
Word up, baby.
I was going to start singing it. I'm going to do that. All right. Joshua Dyer, my friend, welcome to the show. We've got a question from what is your preferred 16-team playoff format? 6 teams seems low, and I think 8 with top 2 on bye makes more sense. Thoughts? I
agree with that. 8, 6 isn't enough. Fantasy football is so fluky head to head. You gotta reward at least half the league to have a shot to compete. And I like the bye weeks for the top teams. So I think 8's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think half your league should be in. I think the top 2 teams should be on a bye. And I think in this situation, your 8th seeded team should be the team with the highest amount of points, not necessarily the 8th place team, because there's some weird ass stuff that happens in fantasy. And I think you got to reward that point getter. So the team outside of the playoffs with the most amount of points, in my opinion, should get the last seed versus the team outside of the playoffs with the best record. But half your league, like Anthony said, should be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that. Sully. I think that's what we do in the league we're in. So basically he said, look, instead of having the last team that would get into the playoffs automatically get in based on head-to-head record, instead, you don't look at head-to-head at that point. You just take the highest person who had the most fantasy points year on end. So if
that guy was like
3 and 7. Yeah. And it's because he just had bad luck. He just played the wrong team at the wrong time, and at least
Brad, I have 3 teams this year that are the highest scoring point total in the league, and none of them are sitting in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, but if you got to the playoffs, would you win a game if you keep losing all year, right?
Well, I've scored more points than anybody else in the league. So do you think I win a game? I probably do.
I don't know. You haven't won it yet, right? Like, why are you not?
Well, I have won, but I'm not in the playoffs. So you don't have any leagues where the highest point guys aren't in the playoffs.
I don't know. I haven't checked. I'd have to look. There probably is. I'm sure there
Take a
probably
look at it.
are.
All
I'm just
saying is
like, I don't know how.
one of them is the 96 team Superflex tight end league, and halfway through the season, I had more points than any of the other 95 teams in the league, and I still wasn't in the playoffs.
The reason why this is a thing is because fantasy football is not fair, and head-to-head matchups are not a fair way to determine who the better teams are. Like
I have less points than the
totally
ninth place
random.
team.
There you
Look
go.
at what you're doing. You're butt hooking Smokey the Cat.
There you go.
All right, that's ridiculous.
And good for you, Smokey the Cat, for being in fourth. Don't apologize for how you win. Just win. But at the same time, there are situations where, like, I've had games in that league this year where I've scored 200 points, and the guy I played against scored 206. And everybody else in my league is winning with 105.
Right.
It happens.
Right.
It happens.
That's
why I think you reward that.
You've lost a ton of games, but somehow, like,
I lost a ton of games.
The reason why, Brad, the reason why is because he did.
What's your record?
7-5.
Oh, well, that's okay. I thought you were,
but I'm not a playoff team. That's why.
But even if he's 1-9, right? Like, it doesn't really matter if he has the second highest score every week and plays the best high score every week. Like, that's not. It's not like you
got some serious shitty luck. Look, if you're 1-9,
win loss is used in the NFL because teams have defense and they can stop teams from scoring points on them. But in fantasy football, there's no defense. Like, you just whatever they score.
IDP.
I don't know what that spells.
No, but there's no defense to stop the other team. So no matter what you do, you can just go against the highest scoring team. There's nothing you can do about it. So this is a way to try to balance out some of the bad luck in the league.
And I don't know if you guys have ever played in all play leagues. They're awful. But that's basically where you play everybody every week, and your record at the end of the season is like 114 and 98. It's terrible.
It's like a rotisserie league. Like you just do points and no head-to-head matchups
too. I think you need that rivalry thing. I think you need that weekly matchup. I think that's what makes fantasy football so much fun. But
trading does
that too. Except for the guys I trade, all get flipping hurt. So.
Touche. So, Anthony, I think you're onto something. I think we need to devise a fantasy football league where your opponent's defensive IDP players can take points away from the offense.
Yeah, see, now that would be pretty cool.
What we're talking about.
Brad,
what is today?
Brad, if we can join up on that, I will help you develop that league, and that's how I'll get into IDP right there.
I'm just fascinated by somehow the defense is taking away points from the offense in fantasy. Anthony's got something sparking in my brain here now.
There's something there.
The neural firings are beginning.
We're going to circle back on that one.
I keep saying I'll play IDP and no one will have me. So
in the championship, we'll call it the Sullys. You've won the Sully.
You sullied yourself.
It's gonna be your mustache. We're gonna shave it off and make it into a trophy.
I could. You want me to donate this thing? It's going pretty soon.
Majestic.
It's either the wedding ring or the mustache is going, and I don't want to give up the wedding ring, so the mustache is saying see ya.
Probably should, as November is now closed.
Almost.
2 hours.
What else is going on? Is that it for questions?
That is it. That is it for the questions tonight. You know what? It's that point in the season where you're either in the playoffs or you're struggling to make the playoffs, or you've already turned off, like you're done. There's quite a few leagues where I'm talking to league mates and they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot this was still here." Come on. Just because you're lost doesn't mean you need to give up.
There's 4 people watching right now, and I genuinely appreciate the 4 of you spending your time with us. If any of you 4 want anything in particular for us to talk about next week, drop it in the chat, send us a DM, whatever. We can show up next week and talk top 10 tight ends, which is probably what's going to happen. Or you can give us something that you want to talk about. So
we'll figure something better out than top 10 tight ends, because there's only like a top 6.
Figure something out, hey?
Look at our team. It's funny watching the tiers videos. Every time Craig and I record them, we're like, dude, this is what it is. Like, you've got like a top 5, 6, and then everybody else that you just kind of hope can get to that 9.8.
How many times in a show could I say 9.6 to 9.8 fantasy points to top 12 tight end? Hey, I have to recalculate this year, Brad. It might have changed. I think
tight end is. It's so.
I think tight end scoring might be slightly up this year.
It's so stupid. It's like a tight end. A tight end gets 3 catches for like 23 yards, and everyone's like, "Oh, what a terrible week!" And then you have a tight end get 4 catches for 20 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is the best tight end of all time!"
Right? His name's Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about Pat Freiermuth. He scores 2 touchdowns in a game, and everyone's like, "I think Pat Freiermuth might be as good as Kyle Pitts."
Whoa. We were
like, what are we
hold
doing?
on. Back it up. I was talking Freiermuth up preseason, so let's just hold on.
Yeah, you
hold
were.
your horses there.
Sure, you were, but you also like a bunch of other crappy football players, so it doesn't really matter.
Freiermuth is not
Slow your roll.
Your takes
I
are
like
crappy.
Pat
Freiermuth is
Freiermuth.
delightful.
He's a very good football player. I like him a lot, but he's not on the radar until he scores 2 touchdowns. Just like Chase Claypool the year before. Like, I liked Chase Claypool coming out, drafting him in the 3rd round, and everyone's like, "Yeah, he's okay. I think he'll be all right." Then he has a 4 touchdown outing one game, and all of a sudden he's in everybody's top 10.
Yeah, now he doesn't score touchdowns this year, and everyone hates him again.
And he didn't last year. He didn't
Not a
last
lot of
year
people
either.
in offense score touchdowns. It just is what it is. So at this point in the season, it is what it is. I mean, folks are gearing up, ready for the playoffs. Trade deadlines have probably come and gone in a lot of leagues. We start getting ready to turn the table to 2022. We start looking at rookie content. I will encourage everybody who's watching this to stick with us in 2022. We've already started working on the rookie content behind the scenes. You pull back the curtain a little bit, you'll see us back there tinkering and getting lists ready and preparing all these rookies and watching who's getting invited to the Senior Bowl so we can see what players are getting ready to rock and roll. And we're going to help you guys with rookie content next year. We got, if you have been with us for a while, you've seen that we did a lot of rookie content this year too. So we've got some new folks on board that have been helping. We've got some new tools that we're going to be rolling out. We got a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. So make sure you guys stick with us.
I have one more quick thing I want to get off my chest.
Oh, darn.
Please do.
I'm going to see Metallica later this month.
Awesome.
And I'm in a fantasy league with my buddy who's going with me.
Yeah.
And I'm eliminated from the playoffs. I'm out of contention in this redraft league. He needs me to win. So he's like, "Hey, I need you to win this week."
Okay.
And I said, "If I win this week, will you buy me a beer at the concert?" And that's like $20 out here in California. That's a good amount of money, right?
What?
Yeah.
You might just stay home and watch it online.
I'll take a picture for you when I'm there.
That's ridiculous.
Anyway, is it collusion?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that collusion? Like he's
but I'm not. Are you going to try to win anyway?
No, I would not have been putting in any waiver bids unless he sent me this text message. I wasn't going to put in any waiver bids because I'm eliminated. Like I had nothing to play for. I wasn't going to waste my time. But so now that I could get a beer,
I don't blame you for that. But you bring up something very interesting and very important to all you redraft commissioners out there. If any of you 5 are that, then you have a team eliminated from playoff contention in a redraft league. You need to lock their ability to add off of the waiver wire and make trades and everything else. Shut that shit down because this stuff can happen. Guys are selling stuff and picking guys up for a $20 beer. So should you try to win this week? Yes, you should try to win every week. Should you do anything extra special because you want to get a beer out of it? I don't think so.
It's a gray area though. It's not like a dirty trade. It's not like
area. Just show up. Just show up.
You are now being compared to drug trafficking. That's how dirty what you're doing is. Secret or legal cooperation or conspiracy, especially in order to cheat or deceive others.
Wow.
Kind of spells it out for you right there.
Is yes. Hey, Wilson has a question.
All right. Let's finish it off strong with our boy Wilson. Why is Taysom considered a better QB and better long-term solution for a team versus Hurts?
I don't
know. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't make that argument. I just think Taysom's a better start this week over Hurts. But
I don't think I could do that either. Who's Philly play? They play the Jets. No, I'll take Hurts over Taysom.
That's a good one.
Yeah, they face the Jets.
I think Taysom Hill, if starting, will have a higher point total than Jalen Hurts this week.
Okay. So we do $5 bets on Sunday. You and I are just doing a $5 bet right now, right here.
Let's do
we'll
it.
see how it goes next week.
Let's do it.
Done.
So 1/4 of a beer is on the table.
But I need a condition that
is this now
Taysom Hill has to start. All right.
He is starting.
All right.
He's starting.
There you go, Wilson. All right, people. It is 10:30. We do appreciate your time as always. We love having you guys. We love having the conversations. Stick with us. We will be going strong into the new year. We got a lot of great content coming, a lot of good things on the burner. Thank you guys as always for hanging out with us. What?
I just made a trade.
Oh dear God!
Hang on, I don't even
Trading
know what it
makes
was.
fantasy fun.
Collusion does not make fantasy fun.
Collusion only helps Anthony get way overpriced.
I sent him like 5 different offers. So,
wait, you just sent like
traded,
blind offers?
No, I sent 3 different offers for one player, all the same player, and there was a variable piece. So it was a third and a fourth in all the trades. And one of the offers was Crowder, one was Beasley, and one was Jarrett Patterson. And I got Damian Harris back.
And they took Patterson, right?
No, it took Crowder.
Oh.
Wow. You fleeced him. Well played.
You should add more things to even out the trade because that's not.
That's reverse collusion.
I made the offer.
You colluded with yourself to get a good trade.
I made the offer and I sent the owner a message, DM, and said, I'm sending you 3 different offers. If any of these are to your liking, let me know. If not, let's talk. And you accepted one.
No, that's good. I like it.
Trading makes fantasy fun.
Still hanging in there in that 96 team league. This will be now 3 straight years without any draft picks. Yay.
Sully is now officially trading himself into a good team. And you all have a good night. We'll see you later.
Good night.
Night all.